Broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios at Santander Stadium. This is York's local sports show. Talking local sports on York's local sports station. Welcome to Game Day with GameTime PA on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hello and welcome. Teddy Feinberg, Brandon Stoneberg, Christian Arnold, Randy Reese on deck. We're here Game Day with GameTime PA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. We're here talking high school sports for the next hour. If you're watching on our live stream, that's 4 to 5 p.m. If you are watching on the radio, or if you're watching on the radio, if you're listening on the radio on WOYK, that is 6 to 7 p.m. We're here every single week, Thursdays at those times, bring you the latest and greatest from the York Adams sports region. Gentlemen, how is everything going today?
Good. It's a good start to basketball season. We got good weather outside. It's good, man.
Yeah, it's like 55 degrees out in December. It's great.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, so I'm kind of a weather guy.
We're always weather in the first segment.
No, I'm a weather guy. Like this is kind of what I got. I couldn't. The next 2 days, we're looking at mid-60s. Saturday, we're looking at 66 as the forecast.
Sunday might hit 70. It's gonna be December 13th, and we might be at 70 degrees.
I'm all for that.
I'm definitely pushing the T-shirt that day. Good stuff. As we'll do, I guess we'll hop right into it and give out our game balls, fellas. You guys covered high school hoops this past weekend. You saw a handful of different games. Who stood out and why?
I think we've had some really, really big scoring performances. I think Kyle Woodridge at Kennerdale, 40 points against West York. That's a tough defense to score 40 on.
Wesley Matthews-like performance.
Yeah, he had 40, and then they tweeted at us to make sure we keep an eye on him. If he didn't have our attention before, he's definitely got it now. Whom else am I thinking of?
He's a great athlete. He was an awesome receiver.
One of the best receivers in the league. Who else am I thinking of? Courtney Demoff at Red Lions. She scored her 1,000 career point. Courtney Closter at Northeastern put up 28.5.
Jordan Closter.
What did I say?
You said Courtney.
Oh, I meant Courtney Demoff. Jordan Closter.
There was crossover on the Courtney.
So Closter had 28 in the first half. She got her 1,000 career point. McCauley put up 31 points against Dallastown. 8 boards, 5 assists. Like just some huge scoring performances so far.
Yeah, no doubt.
What do you got, Teddy?
I'm going to go Courtney. Is it Courtney Bayhoff?
Kate
Bayhoff.
Now we're calling everyone Courtney.
So it's the K and the C. I'm going to go Kate Bayhoff. She obviously was prominently featured in our high school basketball preview section, and I'm going with her for a couple of different reasons. First of all, she had one of those big scoring performances. She finished with, I believe it was 31 points, if I'm not mistaken. She hit 14 of 18 from the free throw line. York Catholic absolutely rolled Trinity. But this is even the greater point that I want to make, because I like seeing big picture on these issues. The question coming into every single year is what's York Catholic going to do in D3 girls hoops? Mm-hmm. Are they going to do it again?
I mean, they've done it, 10 straight times? 9 straight times?
Going for their 11th straight. And when you come out and you're the stud player and you're a sophomore and you come out and you drop 30-plus and you go 14 of 18 from the line and you win big opening night over Trinity, you're sending the message loud and clear, we're back again. Yeah. So big statement from them, big statement from her. She's getting my game ball, period, point blank. Christian.
Emma Saxon was huge for Central over the weekend. She had 33 combined points in the 2 games in the Penn Manor tip-off tournament. She was huge in getting Central back into the game. 2 slow starts for Central. She was able to help rally her team and get the ball going, and really kind of led the effort there to get some pressure on their opponents. And really, once she got the ball, anywhere she was shooting from, she was pretty on point.
She's a nice player.
Another great athlete. She was first team volleyball too.
Yeah.
And her brother obviously was a great player for Central too, so they got some athletes over there. Couple big shot makers from the past week. I noticed this combing through the archives. George Dumars, York Suburban, she hit a 3-ball at the buzzer. They beat New Oxford 32-29. Marquise Camel had a big first weekend for Gettysburg. His 3-pointer with 7.5 seconds left. He got fouled on the play too, so we had a 4-point play. They beat Shippensburg 57-55. Those are not easy shots to make, so just shout out to the buzzer beaters.
And Aaron Ward from Dallastown, he hit 3 free throws with 2 seconds left to be Redline 54-53 Tuesday night, I think it was. Tuesday night. He's had a couple big games too. Dallastown, we didn't really know who was going to be their go-to guy right now. Aaron Ward stepped up. I think he hit 5 threes and put up 21 against West York the other night.
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly. It's hard to say, as we found out going into the year, the players to watch.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people out there. I always say this going into the new fantasy sports season, when people panic about their draft. I always say there's someone on the waiver wire right now that you don't know about that's going to be great. Just keep that in mind. Same thing with his.
Same thing happened in football. We didn't expect, Tyler Folk to be one of the top passers. We didn't expect, Tavian Dorsey and Jakar Kennard to be the top running backs. It's on paper before the season, and what actually happens in the season is two totally different things.
Two totally different things. We did have some big news coming out of, YAIA football as well. And
we thought we were done with football talk.
Well, but you're never quite
done. Last year,
we
thought we put the nail in the coffin. Last week.
Yeah, but you know what? It's become the year-round sport, and this story is impossible to ignore, quite frankly. Brad Livingston, his future at Central York appears to be tenuous. He's been there, I want to say he's been there 46 years total in some capacity with the football program, in the last 30 as head coach, and there were some rumblings on social media that last year may have been his last year. Brandon, you were at a recent school board meeting. What went down there, and what can you tell the listeners out there?
Yeah, well, first of all, to put this in perspective, he's been there for 50 years in some capacity. He graduated from there. He played football there. He was an assistant coach there. And then for the last 34 years, he's been the head coach there. He's racked up 234 wins. And he's also been there, to put it in perspective, he's been there twice as long as the next most tenured head coach in the league. Like, John Defoe's been at Bermudian about 13 or 14 years. That's the second place after Brad, who's been there 34 years. So, longest tenured head coach. Anyway, so there were some rumors after the season, and it was all rumors and hearsay around the school district. Nothing on record that he might have been given an ultimatum by someone in the school board, maybe a superintendent or something, and that the ultimatum was allegedly, walk away now on your own, or we'll let you go and have one more year of volleyball, or we'll let you go from both. He's also won the last 2 state titles in volleyball, so he's brought a lot of success to Central. Very beloved guy, a lot of loyalists, a lot of supporters behind Livingston. There are some now, he's had a few bad years in football, that have kind of, that camp on the other side wanting him to go is kind of growing bigger and bigger as well. So there were some that believe that the school board gave him an ultimatum. The school board says no, like, he's still our head coach, as far as we know, nothing's changed. Anyway, so the school board meeting comes up Monday. About 55 to 60 people, I think me and another YDR reporter counted in there when it first started. Mostly, all about Livingston. No one was really there to hear about the tax increases.
Yeah, I can't imagine why.
Yeah. But they all came. I think about in total, I think 7 or 8 stepped up to the podium and kind of threw their hat in and said, "Here's why we support Livingston." They all spoke to his character. They all said how. Basically the consensus was he's more than a football coach. He's a leader in the area. He's a leader of young men. He's a mentor, and he's done well for the school. He deserves better than an alleged ultimatum like this. He doesn't deserve to get pushed out if this is what you guys are going to do. School board didn't have too much response. Their policy is, as always, we don't talk on confidential personnel issues. They're not going to talk speculation about firing someone. But really, Tucker Haas, who when I was in high school was about 4 or 5 years old, I think, a Central kid diagnosed with cancer, and the team kind of rallied around him, and he's been the inspiration for Central teams for years. He's been on the sideline every game since then. Tucker's team T-shirts all the time. He got up there and gave an emotional speech and cried. A former Central principal got up there. He coached for Livingston for 12 years. Tucker's mom got up there. There was just a bunch of people. There were coaches from Northeastern. John Urey's a coach from Northeastern now, got up and spoke on behalf of Livingston. It was a very emotional, tense, half-hour comments, and everyone supported him and wanted the board to reconsider. The board hasn't even officially, obviously, let him go to begin with, but that's kind of the update on the situation. His future is kind of up in the air. There's rumors that he's done as Central's coach.
This is a tough issue. He obviously, no one's going to question the longevity and general greatness of this man and his coaching ability. He's been there a long time. It's 2015-16. We don't know what the future holds, obviously, and the last thing we want to do is speculate. But I can see both sides of the equation. I really can. I can see both sides of the coin. It's hard. I don't wish to be in anyone's shoes on that, to be perfectly honest with you. It's actually a position I'm not envious of anybody there.
No, It seems at this point, especially the way it's kind of spiraled now, it's a lose-lose no matter what happens. If you keep him, it's kind of like a lame duck situation, and if you let him go, everyone's already angry at you anyway.
It will be. A lot of it also just depends then, of course, again, how it would unfold and who could possibly be brought in. Who knows what's out there, from a candidate standpoint as well. And certainly one would figure there's some quality names out there that could step in and fill a void. So, again, Coach Livingston has been there a long time. He's done a lot for the community. You take absolutely nothing away from anything he's ever accomplished. And at the same time, 30-plus years, that's a sizable period of time.
And that's just his head coach. He was an assistant for, 10 years before that. He was a player there. He graduated from Central, I think, in his 60s.
Right.
Someone who's been at your school and represented your district for 50 years, probably deserves, here's your last year, go out, in a Kobe way or a Jeter way,
True. But at the same time, you don't know what's been going on then also behind the
And I can hear the argument. He's been there long. They haven't had much success in football recently, and there's multiple arguments of why that happens.
Right.
But I can hear the camp. I can understand their argument why he should go.
Yeah, I think it's a tough issue.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that, but I guess we will see how it unfolds. We'll continue reporting on the issue, and we'll just take it from there. But certainly was an interesting early week story for you.
Yeah, and then the next school board meeting, there's another one next week, and then I think they don't have one for another 2 weeks after that. So we'll see what happens this Monday.
We shall see. We will be back. We are going to talk high school hoops game day with Game Time PA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
The York High Bearcats have won consecutive District 3 Quad A championships. Troy Sowers guys wear the target into the Lions Den at Red Lion Thursday night on the High School Basketball Game of the Week presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. I'm Ron Rubin. Join Andy Bria and me as Steve Schmale's troops try and take down the Bearcats, also the defending league champions. Both teams lost their leading scorers from last year, but also return enough size and experience to be contenders. York High at Red Lion Thursday at 7 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK and GameTimePA.com.
Payne doesn't take Sunday off. Neither do we. We're open weekdays 8 to 8 and weekends 9 to 6. Just walk into WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics, 2319 South George Street in York, across from the Apple Hill Health Campus. Visit wellspan.org/urgent orthopedics today.
Getting pumped for another year of high school basketball? Tune in to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK as we lay it all out for you in the High School Basketball Spotlight. Presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Catch a preview every day this month leading up to tip-off on Sports Radio 1350. We'll break down the teams and the players of this year's York Adams League. Or go to WOYK1350.com for this year's complete lineup of high school basketball previews. And this winter, catch 2 games a week, including the High School Basketball Game of the Week every Friday. Presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine and only here on Sports Radio 1350.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK honors the Shipley Energy Student Athlete of the Week.
This week's Shipley Energy Boys Student Athlete of the Week is Darian McCauley of West York Boys Basketball. McCauley drained 9 buckets and was 13 of 16 from the free-throw line as the senior forward dropped 32 points overall, grabbed 7 rebounds, and swiped 3 steals to lead the Bulldogs to a 77-70 win against Dallastown in the York Suburban Tip-Off Tournament Championship. McCauley was named Tournament MVP after scoring 51 points in 2 wins across the tournament. And this week's Shipley Energy Girls Student Athlete of the Week is Kate Bauhoff of York Catholic Girls Basketball. Bauhoff went off on Saturday as she scored 31 points, including a superb 14 of 18 effort from the free-throw line as York Catholic opened their season of a 73-59 victory against Trinity.
Get your home ready for fall and winter and sign up for the Shipley Energy Protection Plan. For more information, visit shipleyenergy.com.
At Northwestern Mutual, we take a disciplined and balanced approach to financial planning. Together, we'll help build your financial future on time-tested principles, not market trends, so you can take advantage of life's opportunities. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on a square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hi, I'm Red Lion Boys basketball coach Steve Schmale. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day of Game Time PA here on Sports Radio 1350. I'm Brandon Stonberg alongside Teddy Feinberg. is in the house. Andy Meese is going to join us in the next segment, I believe, or 2 segments from now. I'll talk about wrestling. We got Christian Arnold here, his first time on the show, a relatively new Game Time reporter. Teddy, I think we're going to jump into some boys basketball now.
We are. Sorry, that was inappropriate.
First up, we'll go, I guess, Division One. Talk a little Division One action. I got to see Spring Grove play Central. It's surprising to see that big of a matchup this early in the schedule. Usually it's not cupcakes on the schedule, but usually there's a couple out of division matchups and stuff like that first.
I agree. This game actually, you look at this game, and
that's a huge game.
Yeah, it was a huge game, and 100%. And it's 2 teams that figure to be kind of butting heads around the top of the standings. And I mean, I'm interested about this game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what was your takeaway here?
Well, it was Spring Grove's first game of the season because they didn't even have a tip-off tourney. They were one of the few teams who didn't have a tip-off tourney. So one of their biggest games of the season is their first one right off the bat. And Coach Brooks afterwards said they looked like a team playing their first game. They came out, they shot 2 of 17 in the first quarter. Just they were pushing it too much. When you're that age, or even at any age, you hype something up so much in your head that you end up pushing too hard and kind of pressuring yourself a little bit too much. That's kind of what they were doing. They were just trying to do too much. I think Brooks was trying to make too many all-star plays. He's got his D1 offers. There was a ton of off-season talk about him. He's on the cover of the preview. Probably a lot more pressure on him this year. He was trying to do a little too much. So they were down 20-5 after the first. Central came out, hit 5 3-pointers in the first. Spring Grove couldn't hit a layup. It was ugly in the first. The exact opposite happened in the second. Central shot 2 of 17, and Spring Grove put up 21 points. So it was 20-5 after the first. The second went 21-4 Spring Grove. So capped off by an Eli Brooks dunk. I got one play on video all night, and it was Eli Brooks dunk.
It was the Brooks dunk.
It was the Brooks dunk.
Well, I mean, you got to capitalize. So good job.
Yeah.
It was a good video too.
Yeah,
it worked out well.
He got the steal right in front of me. I wish the ref wasn't in the way, but he got the steal right in front of where I was sitting. It took off and got a 2-handed dunk at the other end. That gave Spring Grove the lead. Second half, it was kind of ugly. It was sloppy. Neither team really did all that much. Jared Wagner, one of the best defenders in the league. We talked about him in our guard story before the season. Central's guy. He has a step up big this year, but he had 5 steals in that game. I think he ended up with 10 or 12 points. They had 4 guys in double figures. Markey and Wagner, the coach, Coach Sheila, we know about those 2 guys. They're going to score. Coach Sheila talked about somebody else needing to step up, a 3rd or 4th option. Ontario Edmonds had 11 points. Where'd that come from? And Courtney Batts, another guy off the bench, came out and scored 11 points for them. So they got 4 guys in double figures.
Just scrap iron contributors.
Oh yeah, they and then Courtney Batts had a big N1 in the 4th quarter. I think Spring Grove cut it to 2 right before Batts got an N1. That was the closest they got in the 4th quarter. So it was mostly Central. Nathan Markey's a gunner from outside. He had I think 4 3-pointers for him. Wagner's their defensive guy, their glue guy. The big thing about the second quarter is Wagner was on the bench the entire time with foul trouble. He got 2 fouls in the first quarter when he had 3 steals. Missed the whole second quarter. Spring Grove took over. When he came back, it was all Central again.
I'm impressed by Central. I mean, they obviously lost their big man unexpectedly, Gingrich, at the beginning of the year. He didn't return to the team.
Had to replace 3 starters from a team that did really well last year.
From a team that did really well last year, and they're 4-0 now, maybe 3-0.
3-0, and they have 3 solid wins. Penn Manor by 3, Spring Grove by 3 or whatever it was, 5, whatever it was. It was 3.
You got to figure they're going to be there. And again, I think in D1, William Penn, even though they've lost some really good players as well from the past season, I think they're probably still the front runner. That goes without being said. But good start for Central. I'm impressed with Coach Schuyler and those kids are doing over there.
I really like the fact that they started out with a tough schedule. I mean, there's something to be said for just easing into a season, but to go hit the ground running like that, I think benefits both sides of the coin here.
I would agree. And you also have to figure they were preparing to play with their who knows when Gingrich said, "Hey, I'm not playing."
Right.
But you got to figure they were preparing to play with him. Kind of a. Well, then they changed their whole style around. You know what I mean? They're going to a smaller lineup.
Well, they play completely small ball. Most of the day, Wagner might be the biggest guy on the court most plays, and he's a 6'1", 6'2" guard.
That's very good coaching.
Yeah, and sandwiched in between those Penn Manor and Spring Grove wins was a blowout win over a really solid Eastern team. So they've had 3 really big wins. They have a tough schedule at the end. I think they play it was 8 of their last 10 on the road or something like that. So they got to pick up some wins now, and they're doing it so far.
Christian, what games were you at this weekend?
I was at a lot of girls basketball, so boys basketball didn't get to see a whole bunch of. But keep an eye on some of the teams. Obviously, William Penn is a team to keep an eye on. Central, a team to keep an eye on. Spring Grove, team to keep an eye on. And like I said, I really like the fact some of these teams are going out there and starting off the year with these tough schedules because it sets a tone for the year. And once you hit that middle part of the season, where if you're a team that had maybe a easy schedule to start off with, you kind of have that point in the year where you can kind of slow down. The games count, obviously, but you get that opportunity to take it a little easier on some of your guys who you need to be healthy during the stretch of the season.
Another team to keep an eye on is West York boys in D2.
And Northeastern in D2. Northeastern put up 100.
Yeah. Both those teams are definitely solid. And, Gettysburg pulled off some wins, too. It's going to be interesting.
I think when I saw Gettysburg, what they graduated Bortner and one of the Lampies. And from an average, before the playoffs, they were really average. They were average in the playoffs. They just kept sneaking by. They went 16-11 in the regular season. They got the 5th place qualifier to make it to states. They finished 5th in districts and still made it to states, and they got blown out in states. So they kind of skated by. I thought I was kind of hard on them, and then they lost some players. So I didn't think they'd be that good. But Marquise Campbell's one of the most fun players to watch, and Max Lampe's when he's hot, he's hot.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race in D2 for sure. You mentioned Northeastern putting up 100-plus points. West York, obviously. You mentioned McCauley at the outset of the show. He had a fantastic first week.
Yeah, Coach Ackerman said he's playing big boy basketball now. He had 50-something points in 2 games, to start off the season, and then they went out and beat Counterdale, so they're 3-0 as well.
But that's what they wanted to see out of West York. I know we focused a lot on Josh Bailey starting the year, but when I spoke to Ackerman before the season, one of the things he said was that this is an opportunity. He wants a supporting cast, and they want to take the pressure off Josh Bailey, and this is an opportunity to do that. I know he didn't have the greatest first couple games to start the season, but
which is a good sign for them,
right? And they're still winning pretty good. So that's got to be a good sign, like Brandon said.
He's going to come around. Bottom line, they're definitely going to be a solid team. It'll be really interesting to see them and Northeastern, like you said, kind of jockeying for position at the top. But
Eastern is an underrated team in that division too. They're going to give everybody trouble. There's not going to be an easy win over Eastern all year.
It's definitely going to be an intriguing year for certain. I still like West York in that division an awful lot, though. I think they bring a lot to the table. They have the point guard, and like you said, Darren really stepped up.
I think West York is just barely ahead of Northeastern, I would say, right now up there. In Division I, I'd still say William Penn. They haven't done it. They lost to Reading, who's a really good team, but besides that, they played really well. They blew out Southwestern Tuesday.
You got to figure William Penn's going to be right there when it's all said and done for that division, right there at the top of the Division 1. There might be some teams competing. It'll just be interesting to see. I think Spring Grove definitely has talent. Mm-hmm. And Central just has that cohesiveness with the coach. And, they pushed they pushed York High last year. Mm-hmm. So,
and Spring Grove's thing is the same issue they had last year. Gordon and Eli are going to score their points. Eli Brooks, I think he had 20. Gordon had 19. No one else had more than 5. And they had the same issue last year. And Coach Brooks said it afterward. There can't be 1 or 2 guys and everyone else watching them. When they were at their best last year is when they were getting those random 18-point performances from Flaherty or those 18-point performances from Weirman and Myers. Someone else has to step up and help Gordon and Brooks score. And when they're at their best is when some's doing that. When they're at their worst is when it's just Brooks and Gordon.
Yeah, they can't get 30 from Brooks and 20 from Gordon and finish the game with 58.
Yeah.
They have
to have somebody else hit something.
Yeah, they need that supporting cast. Well, and in the contest you were at, you did not...
No one else had more than 5.
Yeah.
I think, Flaherty struggled. He had a couple air balls. His shooting wasn't on. Weirman is not a very aggressive player. He's good defensively, and he's a good shooter when he tries, but he just wasn't very aggressive shooting the ball. And they have to have somebody step up.
Well, and again, it's early.
Yeah, they did play Central. We shouldn't be this tough on them because they played a tough opponent their first game of the year. They're going to get a lot better. They'll be there.
It's early on. I think that we look at the standings realistically. We can say William Penn. We can say Central. We can say Spring Grove.
Yeah. William Penn gets Redline tonight in a pretty good battle at Redline.
That'll be interesting. And I think, in D2 basketball, I think we obviously have West York. We were talking Northeastern. You mentioned Eastern York being really a tough team at the outset. Any insight on D3?
Well, I thought Hanover got an overtime win over Biglerville, and I think some people talked about Biglerville as a dark horse, so Hanover kind of put that back, and we're still the top dog here. DeLone kind of got off to a slower start than I think we were expecting. I think they're off to a 1-2 start.
They got a W they picked up their first W. I believe it was Tuesday night.
Okay, so they're 1-2. Hanover's had a pretty solid start so far, so I think it's exactly what we thought. Hanover 1 and maybe Biglerville or DeLone 2.
Again, very early in the season, so we'll see how things unfold as things continue to unfold. We'll be back to talk girls basketball game day with GameTime PA.
Payne doesn't take Sunday off. Neither do we. We're open weekdays 8 to 8 and weekends 9 to 6. Just walk into WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics, 2319 South George Street in York, across from the Apple Hill Health Campus. Visit wellspan.org/urgent orthopedics today.
Getting pumped for another year of high school basketball? Tune in to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK as we lay it all out for you in the High School Basketball Spotlight. Presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Catch a preview every day this month leading up to tip-off on Sports Radio 1350. We'll break down the teams and the players of this year's York Adams League. Or go to WOYK1350.com for this year's complete lineup of high school basketball previews. And this winter, catch 2 games a week, including the High School Basketball Game of the Week every Friday. Presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine and only here on Sports Radio 1350.
Did you know that Shipley Energy can take care of all your energy needs? From heating oil and propane to providing your home with electricity and natural gas. We also provide heating and air conditioning service and installation. All of your energy needs are under one roof at Shipley Energy. To learn more, visit ShipleyEnergy.com. Call 855-4-SHIPLEY and don't forget to ask about our $100 rebate. Shipley Energy. Energy for life.
Security in life isn't something you just wish for. You build it with a strong financial plan. Start with Northwestern Mutual. Together, we'll design a disciplined and balanced approach to financial security because reaching your goals is something we both want to work toward. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on the Square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
The York High Bearcats have won consecutive District 3 Quad A championships. Troy Sowers guys wear the target into the Lions Den at Red Lion Thursday night on the High School Basketball Game of the Week presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. I'm Ron Rubin. Join Andy Bria and me as Steve Schmale's troops try and take down the Bearcats, also the defending league champions. Both teams lost their leading scorers from last year, but also return enough size and experience to be contenders. York High at Red Lion Thursday at 7 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK and GameTimePA.com.
Hi, I'm West York boys basketball coach Bill Ackerman. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day of GameTime PA here on Sports Radio 1350. We're back. We did some boys basketball in the last segment. We talked some football leftovers, game balls in the first segment. Now we get to girls basketball, Teddy.
We do get to girls basketball. Christian, you covered an awful lot of girls hoops this past weekend. You saw a good dosage of Central. You saw a good dosage of Kennerdale. What were some key takeaways for you?
I'll start with Kennerdale. I know they don't get too much love around here. He struggled a bit.
He's only been here a month, and he knows Kennerdale doesn't get too much love.
You could continue.
What I was going to say, they're a scrappy team. They play tough. They play aggressive basketball, especially in the first couple minutes. They came out pretty tough in the first couple minutes, even against Central. I mean, they took a 5-0, 7-0 lead in the first couple minutes, the first quarter against Central, which says a lot. And they were kind of pumped for this weekend. They're using it. They were using it as an opportunity to set the tone for the season to kind of indicate that they're not a team that's going to get pushed around this year. So, They came out with the win the first night. Got to be happy about that. They played a decent game the second day. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But I know if I'm Kennerdale, you got to be happy with the 1-1 start during the tip-off tournament to kind of set that tone, especially against a team like Central. And then Central, obviously, they came out pretty hot the last couple games. Like I said, Emma Saxon, 33 points combined the first 2 games. Nixon Valencic was right there behind her.
Sophomore.
She had like 16 points the first game. She was pretty hot the first 2 games of the season. And then Sarah Sepik had 5 3-pointers the other night.
Wow.
So I mean, she was on fire behind the 3-point line, and she was like that the first 2 games of the season too. So Central's got a lot of firepower offensively, and the thing, like I said at the top of the show, was just finding that groove and finding that ability to not have those slow starts in the first couple minutes of the game, and that was something that they were trying to focus on after the first 2 games of the year.
They have a good team. I mean, I look at Central, I look at Red Lion, and I have to figure the D1 race more than likely is coming down to those 2.
Yeah, New Oxford can throw in there. They almost came back on Central, I think, last night or the night before. They were down like 20, and then they came back and only lost by 1. So New Oxford showed they can do it. Red Lion, like you said, is definitely one of the top teams in Division I. Dallastown has shown they took a big step back. They lost big to Red Lion the other night. But they lost 4 starters.
You would expect that. I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I think those three are kind of going to be the teams in it. I think Southwestern could make some big games here and there, but I think they might be a year or two away. But yeah, besides that, Central, like Christian says, off to a pretty good solid start.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think that there's definitely some intriguing teams in that race, and I definitely really like both of those clubs. Like I said before, Central and Red Lion. Brandon brought up New Ox. They had a good year last year there.
I'll see New Oxford travels to Red Line tomorrow night. I'll see that on the girls' side. That's going to be a pretty big early Division I battle. New Oxford plays Central and Red Line back-to-back. Good luck with that.
Yeah, well, the other side of it, it's a good early season litmus test, I guess you could say.
And the schedule has to get easier after that.
It really does. Yeah, exactly. No question. We talked about scheduling up with the boys. Definitely, tough start, but good stuff. I do just want to say this about our boys basketball. Brandon mentioned William Penn Red Lion tonight. You can watch that on GameTime PA this evening on our live stream. That game tips off at, I believe, 7:30.
7:30. Yeah, the WOYK crew, or Ron Ruman, his guy will be there. I'll be there for game time, so we'll have that all covered. Should be a good one.
Want to stick on girls hoops as well. We mentioned York Catholic. They won big, and Kate Bayhoff did not get the cover jinx from our YI football.
I think Bailey might have got it, but I don't think Bayhoff got it.
No, I mean, she was phenomenal. So Catholic, obviously, they're there every single year. They figure to pretty much be there once again in 2015-16. There were some milestones as well. We mentioned Jordan Kloster, her 1,000th point. Courtney Demoff scored her 1,000th point. Kloster had a huge game the other night as well. I want to say she scored 37. Yeah, 28 and a half and maybe 37 total. Northeastern actually lost to Susky. Again, she scored 30-plus points, but I don't even think Northeastern topped the 50-point plateau, which is one of those things you need that supporting cast.
We highlighted that matchup before the season started as one of the must-watch, because Susky and Northeastern just always play close for some reason. Not the rivalry you would think, but I mean they had 2 games combined or difference by 8 points combined last year.
Again, very early. Susky won a couple games early on in the season.
They've got a pretty talented roster. They could be pretty underrated.
Yeah, they definitely could be pretty underrated. Red Lion picked up a huge win over Dallastown the other night. That obviously is always an entertaining rivalry. Brandon brought up the fact that Dallastown obviously lost some really good players this past offseason. We figured they might be in a bit of a rebuild. And, of course, Red Lion won, I want to say, 52-32 final. They won by 20 points. It was 19-17 at the half, and they really opened things back up in the second half to take control. So it should be an interesting year on D1, D2. What about D3? We talked about Catholic. Are there any teams beneath them that could make some noise?
I think it's always the 2 Catholic schools. I think Zach said that in his preview. It's kind of like the private schools than everyone else. Hanover lost Tracy. They could have probably made a run, but they lost their top scorer, their all-time leading scorer on the girls' side to an ACL injury, which kind of isn't good. Obviously, Biggerville can make some noise. They always finish right around 500, a little bit above 500, but it's really DeLone and York Catholic, and York Catholic kind of always holds a little bit of an edge over DeLone there. DeLone's off to a pretty solid start, too, if I saw correctly, I believe.
D2 girls hoops, I think, will be an interesting race. You went out and did a story on York Suburban coming into the new year. Very good defensive team, very well-coached team. What are your expectations for them?
I expect them to have a big year. I know a lot of people are kind of expecting the same. They're a team that likes to move the ball around a lot. They like to. One of the things they were working on during practice that I saw was the transition game. That's something that Coach Barley was really trying to emphasize, that a lot of your points are going to come off that transition game. So she was really working her girls hard to emphasize how important that's going to be during the course of the season. So she's working on a lot of ball movement with her girls, and obviously that transition game. So that's going to be 2 things you're going to keep an eye on if you're playing York Suburban or you're watching them. It's just to see how quickly they move the ball around the paint, inside the paint, and then that transition from offense to defense, or defense to offense, I should say.
I think defensively they're pretty much set. I think what you're seeing at practice is Coach Barley is really hoping to get some offensive production, obviously, because it goes out being said, in order to win a division, you have to score the ball. I look at this game the other night, for instance. Of course, they won the game. They won 32-29. Great win. Great defensive effort. I don't doubt the defense. They beat Newark's 32-29. But I think you got to score the rock a little bit more consistently in order to win. I think that she's searching for ways to do that. They're clearly a team that plays hard. You wrote specifically in your story the practice was very organized. Yeah. It was very structured. They were going very hard in their practice. Now the question is, how do you put the ball in the basket? And I think that's specifically, I think she's searching for ways to do that.
They get an intriguing matchup tonight. They get Dover and the Fink sisters tonight.
That'll be a very intriguing matchup for sure. Again, we mentioned Bayhoff. I just have her stats up here, 31 points, 14 of 18 from the free throw line. York Catholic beat Trinity 73-59 on Saturday, so that's a very impressive win for York Catholic to open the season. Any more thoughts on the high school girls basketball campaign?
I just think I've been surprised by the high scoring. I think last year we had a couple outbursts by Conley, but after that there weren't too many huge performances. I think the Closters and the D-Malls and the Bayhoffs going for the big numbers that they have so far. I just think it's very, very impressive, especially this early in the year, to find your stroke that early and be able to put big numbers up like that. I mean, high school basketball games are only 36 minutes anyway, something like that. So to score 30-something points in 36 minutes is pretty impressive.
It's pretty impressive, yeah. I mean, they're definitely showing up, and they're definitely scoring the ball. And like you said, Central York wins a tip-off tournament. Kennerdale, they both won their tip-off openers. So Closter with 1,000, Demoff with 1,000 points. So it was actually an entertaining week on the high school girls basketball level. So we'll just see if it continues. Mm-hmm. We'll be back. Andy Meese in the house to talk high school wrestling. You're listening to Game Day with GameTime PA.
Payne doesn't take Sunday off. Neither do we. We're open weekdays 8 to 8 and weekends 9 to 6. Just walk into WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics, 2319 South George Street in York, across from the Apple Hill Health Campus. Visit wellspan.org/urgent orthopedics today.
Getting pumped for another year of high school basketball? Tune in to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK as we lay it all out for you in the High School Basketball Spotlight. Presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Catch a preview every day this month leading up to tip-off on Sports Radio 1350. We'll break down the teams and the players of this year's York Adams League. Or go to WOYK1350.com for this year's complete lineup of high school basketball previews. And this winter, catch 2 games a week, including the High School Basketball Game of the Week every Friday. Presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine and only here on Sports Radio 1350.
The puck drops here.
Wellman, the shot, score!
Sports Radio 1350, your home for Hershey Bears hockey.
Casey Wellman has won it in overtime for Hershey.
And the Washington Capitals.
Hearing a shot, they score!
Defending the Den and rocking the red all season. Catch the Bears and the Caps on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports. Welcome to WOYK's High School Basketball Spotlight. Brought to you by WellSpan Sports Medicine, the official healthcare and sports medicine provider of the York Revolution.
The Red Lions are returning some athletic players this year, and there is some optimism surrounding this team. We talked to head coach Steve Schmale, and he revealed his overall thoughts on the team.
Going into the year, we have 4 seniors back from last year's team, probably 4 of our top 7 or 8 guys. And, last year they finished the year 13-10, some ups and downs, and played well at times. And this year, I think with some good experience with our seniors, good chemistry, we certainly have a chance to improve on last year, and we're looking forward to getting started. I think we have decent size. I mean, we don't have any 6'5", 6'6" guys out there, but we have 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" guys, some strength, decent athleticism. We should be able to defend and run the floor and rebound. I think that's even more of a strength this year. A lot of those guys are back again.
And some Red Lion players to look out for this year?
Bennett Fry will be our senior point guard, 2-year starter, and actually got some time as a sophomore in some playoff games. Wyatt Tyson is also a senior. He's a forward. Jason Rebuck is another senior forward. Kendrick Boyd Gillespie, who just got finished with a really good football season for us, is also a forward for us. So those are the 4 seniors. We have Ryan Schreckengass is a junior, guard/forward. Darren Fury is a forward. Gary Hunt's a forward. Those guys are all juniors. So we have 7 or 8 guys, juniors and seniors, that have some good experience and are ready to go.
Catch a preview every day as we break down the teams and players of the 2015-2016 York Adams League on WOYK's High School Basketball Spotlight. Brought to you by WellSpan Sports Medicine. And make sure to check out every team preview on WOYK1350.com. Have you been injured? At WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics, no appointment is needed. Learn more at wellspan.org/urgent orthopedics.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill, and don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4SHIPLEY, and don't forget to ask about our $100 rebate. Shipley Energy, energy for life.
Hi, I'm York High Boys basketball coach Troy Sowers. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day of GameTime PA or Sports Radio 1350. And finally, for you wrestling fans, I know you waited all year for this. We're going to talk some wrestling. For the first time in a while, we brought our wrestling expert, Andy Meese, in. Andy, I know there's some big hitters in Division 3. Division 3, there's Adam County kids, always have some big wrestlers, but we're going to talk Division 1 first. I think who won the division last year? Southwestern?
Yeah,
Southwestern won. They lost all-state guy Seth Janney to transfer. He went to Malvern Prep. Yeah. They bring a good amount back, Southwestern. Who do you see from them do you like, and who else around the division should be pretty solid?
Well, Southwestern's definitely a favorite. They bring back Derek Wilson, who placed 5th in the state last year. They bring back Owen Weirley. Gage Thomas is another good kid to watch out for. But they're going to be the favorites. They've got really good balance throughout their lineups. They've got good kids at the bottom. They've got solid kids in the middle and good at the top. I mean, they're going to miss Janney, of course, because you just don't get over a state runner-up just leaving. But you also have to watch out for Spring Grove and Red Lion. They're going to push them to the limit. They both have a lot coming back. Spring Grove 2 years ago got decimated by graduation. And last year they had a very young team, a lot of freshmen and sophomores, and they finished second in the division. They were right there with Red Lion. I think they both had one loss.
Yeah, I think I saw them square off against each other. Spring Grove was really solid. They got Dalton Rohrball, who's a pretty solid wrestler.
Yep. Yeah, Rohrball is great. He had a very good offseason. He wrestled at a lot of tournaments, and he was very competitive there. They also got Jake Meyer in the low weights. They got Marcus Keir, who had his season ended last year in the state tournament. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he got carted off the mat. So it was a tough break for him, but he's back. They got Nate Young up top, Josh Cribbs as well. So they got a lot coming back. Red Lion, they returned Jacob Frock, who had a great match at that Spring Grove Red Lion one with Rohrball. Mm-hmm. He had the lead. Rohrball came back. I can't wait to see those guys wrestle again this year. But they also got Dylan Guerry, Zach Schaefer, Jared Schell, who's going to be a contender at 285 this year. But there's also some other good teams in Division 1. You got Central York. They're returning. Xavier Musty, Dylan Chatterton. Everyone knows about him. He's finally a senior. It's hard to imagine. You remember him a couple years ago as this little guy, and last 2 years he's wrestled 145, and that's where he'll be again this year. But New Oxford's one to consider as well, and Dallastown's got some good kids as well.
It's always a good litmus test in journalism, sports journalism. You kind of start figuring out how you're aging. You're like, wow, that kid played there like 4 years ago.
Well, when we had Steve Navarola, he was talking about how he's covered, the kids now. He covered their parents back in the day. That's how he really knew he was aging.
Definitely an eye-opener.
But Division 1 has some really standout guys. Like Zurich Storm was a first-teamer last year. Chatterton, I think, was first team last year. Rohrball's a big one. Derek Wilson's another great one. So there's a lot of great individual talent in Division 1.
Well, I have a legitimate question, and this comes. Brand's like, I'm sure you do.
We're here to answer for you. Andy's here to answer for you.
We say these teams are good. Mm-hmm. I get it. Good on what level? Are we talking YIAA level? Are we talking regional level? To what point? Mm-hmm. What's the ceiling here?
Southwestern, Spring Grove, and Red Lion, I think, can all have success on the district level. Before the season, before Janney was gone, I tabbed Southwestern as one of the top 2 teams in District 3. A little bit changes when you lose a guy that was pretty much a guarantee for 6 points, at least 4, 5, 6 points every time he was out there. So, that's going to change a little bit. They're going to be slotted right behind like the Cumberland Valleys and the Central Dolphins, but they'll be in the mix with the Penn Manors, the Solankos, some of those solid teams, the Governor Mifflins, the Exeters. They were right there with Exeter last year, and Exeter had a really good team last year. Spring Grove will be back into it again this year. They had a solid year last year in the district meet. And Red Lion almost beat Penn Manor, who ended up, I think, going to states last year, and they're the LL favorites this year. So all 3 teams, I think, have the ability to have success on the district level. And if you can get to the state tournament from District 3, you've got a chance to do something.
Red Lion, a very good coach team, too, Coach Schell. Mm-hmm. I think their record, was a little bit worse than I think they were better than their record last year. They got some tough losses to some good Division 1 teams. Division 2, I think Kennerdale's a reigning champion. Are they going to do it again?
I think so. They beat Gettysburg last night, 44-33. The one thing that concerns me with Kennerdale is they had, I think, 3 or 4 forfeits last night. So that can be alarming, but it's also early in the season. They could be getting guys in shape. They could be dropping some of their heavier weights to like the 195s, the 182s. And those were two of the weights I think they forfeited. But they've got good kids in that lineup. They got Justin Miller, who's a returning district guy. Andrew Barnett, another district guy. Michael Bracey was a state qualifier 2 years ago. He was in an awful pod in districts last year. 3 of the kids of the 4 wrestlers in that area were returning state medalists. So that's going to be difficult for him to get out of. But he's back. Austin McNamee's back. They've got a good amount of people left. Gettysburg, I think, could be a contender as well, but they lost to Kennerdale. They've got some good guys coming back, highlighted by Chase Mueller. I mean, he wrestled Bracey last night and got tech-falled, but I think that more has something to do with Bracey out to prove a point this year than it says anything about Mueller. West York's going to be good, too. They got Ryan Narber back, a state qualifier. They've also got Jake Sikoski back. Yeah. I think that's how it's said.
Yeah. Narber's another solid athlete, one of the best running backs in the league this year, too, when he took over for West York. So solid all-around athlete. Besides Kennerdale, Gettysburg, West York, any dark horses in that division? Anybody else, a Dover or Susky, stand out to you?
I thought Dover could be considered a dark horse, but last night in their match with Dallastown, they got absolutely blown out, and they only had 9 wrestlers. Wow. You have 14 weights. That means 5 are automatically going to be given away. They've got some good individual talent there, though, because they got Matthew Rodriguez, Brandon Rodriguez. They're 2 of the best lightweights in the league. Got Cameron Palmer, who's pretty good, Austin Rich Creek as well. Mm-hmm. So they got some good athletes. I don't think they have enough. Susquehannock had a full lineup last year. They had some good wrestlers, but I don't think they have the top-end talent to be able to stick with a Kennerdale or a West York. Suburban had some athletes. They wrestled Fairfield last night, but they had some forfeits as well. So, I think Division II is going to come down a lot to who's going to forfeit the fewest.
So we got Kennerdale at 1, most likely Gettysburg or West York at 2, and Kennerdale just beat Gettysburg to kind of show off our early start. Same thing as Teddy asked, what level are we talking about for these guys? How far can Kennerdale or Gettysburg go?
1 and done probably in districts. Kennerdale won, I think, 2 last year. They won their first match over Milton Hershey, and then they lost to Central Dauphin, and I think they lost to Southwestern after that. So, it was very impressive for them. The first time making the postseason, a year after Chance Marsteller leaves, and to win a match. Kudos for them. That's a great thing for the Rams program, but I just don't think they have the depth to be able to go in and win a match this year.
All right, Division III, there's Adams County guys. They love their wrestling. Bermudian's been the top guy for a long time. Anybody have a chance to knock Bermudian off the title this year?
I'm going to say Bermudian is the favorite, but I would not be shocked if either Biglerville, DeLone, or both beat them. Wow. Bermudian's losing a lot from their upper weights. They lost Sam McCollum. They lost Britton Shelton, Colton Dahl. They lost a lot of guys there, but they return pretty much every lightweight. They return their guy at 106, 113, 120, 26, 32, 38, 45, and 60. Wow. And they're 285. And Brady Lineball is going to be one of the best in the state. So they got a lot back, but I think some of the areas where they're weak is where Biglerville and DeLone are very strong. And if they can steal some bonus points there and keep the bonus points away in the lower weights, I think they got a chance to beat them.
Okay. So who does Biglerville and DeLone have that stands out to you?
Biglerville's got Scott Cooper and Nate Newberry. 2 great kids.
Cooper should be healthy this year, too. He had some injuries last year.
Yeah, Cooper lost almost all of wrestling season last year. He turned a week before the sectional tournament. And he had a good run. He got to the regional tournament. And you could just tell he wasn't quite in wrestling shape. But he did well. Newberry placed in states, so he'll be back. They have also got Ben Herta, Alex King, Colton Sense, and Victor Lopez returning.
A lot of football guys in that wrestling roster.
A lot of football guys. And that's the big thing with wrestling, especially in the Division III, is they really got to rely on some of those football players. And so early in the season, you're going to see interesting results as guys get to their weights. I think Cooper and Newberry were wrestling 52 and 60 this weekend, when last year they wrestled 38 and 45. So I expect them to drop weight for the postseason. But DeLone returns Brian Schermeyer, Brady Rapaski, and Bryce Perkins, and they finished 4th in the district last year. So
they had some. I saw them. I think regionals. They had a pretty good run out there. They lost Michael Ryder, I believe, is one of the big guys they lost.
Yeah.
How far are these guys? What kind of stage, like Teddy said, are these guys? How far can Berm or Biglerville or DeLone go?
I think they have the potential to make the state tournament, Boiling Springs is going to be there again. They lost a lot, though, so I think District 3 is wide open. Northern Lebanon's reloaded again. They lost some guys last year, but they got a very good program up there that Coach Wallace is building along with. They brought in can't remember his first name, but Collins. He was an assistant for Central Dauphin for a long time, and he won a state title as a wrestler in Northern Lebanon. So they've got a great program there. But as anything goes, again, they snuck into states last year in Northern Lebanon. They finished 4th. Boiling Springs won the state tournament. So District 3 is very tough.
Any dark horses in Division 3? I know Hanover had its moments last year. Kurt Brenner's a pretty solid coach down there, now in AAD as well.
Yeah, I don't think any teams really I'd consider dark horses. A lot of those Division 3 teams have good wrestlers. Hanover's got Caleb Garland, who's fantastic. He's going to be a guy to watch out in the state tournament. Littlestown's got a couple guys, Connor Guyman, Matt Gilday. Those are guys you got to watch out for, too. But I don't think anybody has the full team aspect to be able to knock off either of those 3 teams.
Okay, so there's a preview section. Now, what have we seen so far this year? I'm looking at your notes. Our guy Andy Meese has fully prepared for wrestling season. We're a few days in, and he's already got full notes on this page full of notes.
Love it.
What have you seen so far in the first week that's kind of stood out to you?
Southwestern had a pair of guys, Derek Wilson and Owen Weirley, win Top Hat titles. Top Hat tournament's one of the most prestigious first weekend tournaments in the state, and Weirley won at 145, won top most outstanding wrestler, and it was his 3rd Top Hat title. So that's pretty impressive. That'll lead a long way. They're up at King of the Mountain this week in Central Mountain, which is probably one of the biggest tournaments in Pennsylvania before the postseason, of course. So we'll see what they do. Jared Shell finished 2nd at that same tournament for Red Lion. At Brandywine, Central York finished 2nd as a team to Central Dauphin, which is pretty good because Central York the past couple of years has been light on the numbers. It looked like they had a wrestler pretty much at every weight.
I saw their practice. I stopped by their practice quick yesterday before their basketball game, or 2 days ago before their basketball game, and they had a huge participation. There were a lot of guys in the gym.
Yeah, Chatterton won a title, and freshman 285-pounder Michael Wolfgram won a title. Wow. I'm curious what he can do.
285 as a freshman.
285 as a freshman.
That's a big kid.
Yeah, I'm curious what he can do because there were some decent kids in that field, and he pulled off a couple pins, and he did well there. They had a couple second-place finishers as well, so they did very well there. Spring Grove had a nice tournament at Solanco. Dalton Rohrbaugh and Marcus Keir won titles, and they had 3 guys finish 2nd, and they won the team title, which is impressive with Solanco in the field. As Solanco is one of the premier programs, not in the district, but in the entire state. Biglerville went to the effort of duels, went 3-2. Scott Cooper, Nate Newberry, and Victor Lopez each won 4-1. Cooper and Newberry, you can't really fault their losses. They lost to the Hidlays from Mifflin County. Both those kids were state medalists last year.
Okay. So we're early in the season, but if you get a chance to kind of look into your crystal ball on an individual level, what individual wrestlers? I know last year we had Janny. A couple years ago we had Marsteller. Who are we looking at still at the very end of the season? Who's still standing here at the end of the year?
I think the guys that'll be wrestling the final day of the state. I'll just go by division and school.
Go ahead.
Southwestern, I think you'll have Derek Wilson, Owen Weirley wrestling the last day.
Okay.
Spring Grove, Dalton Rohrbaugh. And
this is on state level.
State level.
Okay.
State level. Dalton Rohrbaugh will be wrestling last day. Red Line, I think Jared Shell will be. Jacob Frock's got a good possibility too. For Central, obviously, Dylan Chatterton. Don't know much yet about Wolfgram, so we'll see. New Oxford, obviously, Zurich Storm's going to be wrestling there at the end of the year. Kennerdale, probably Michael Bracey. If he has something to prove this year, obviously, by his tech fall of Chase Mueller. West York, I could see Ryan Narber being there at the end. He made the state tournament last year, and he went 0-2, but he wrestled well in each of the matches. Bermudian, I think the only one that really has 2 guys, Noah Fleshman, Brady Linebaugh. I think Brady Linebaugh's got a chance to win a state title this year, if I'm being completely honest. He did well last year, and he took that steps over the offseason. He was out at tournaments. He was training. He was putting in the hard work, and I'd like to see it pay off for the kid because he's a good kid. Biglerville, Cooper, and Newberry will both be there. You've also got to watch out for Caleb Garland. I think he's got a shot to do well, and for Dover, I think Brandon Rodriguez has a shot to do well. Okay,
we kind of touched on Dallastown, but I know you had some other kids from Dallastown that you want to keep an eye on. Who's Dallastown having?
Bryce Shields is back, Drake Pugh, and Jake Jansen.
Jake Jansen's a wrestler too, another football kid.
That's a great wrestling name too.
It really is.
But they all made the district tournament last year. Neither of them went to states, if I can recall correctly. But they all performed well at the district level. So I think, that's about their limit as well this year. They could sneak into the state tournament, but if they do, I wouldn't expect too much. But, kids surprise me all the time.
Speaking of surprises, I know it's only a week into the season, but anything really, really surprised you? Anything eye-opening so far?
Not really.
Honest analysis.
Yeah.
It was one weekend of some tournaments. There really weren't any wins that popped out at me outside of the freshman from Central, the heavyweight that won the title. And there were only matches last night. There were a couple matches last night, and nothing of really substance to really.
What about some matches to keep an eye on coming up, or any tournaments to keep an eye on coming up?
This weekend, there's a couple. Southwestern's going up to the King of the Mountain. Next weekend in Lebanon County, there's the Northern Lebanon Duels. Red Lion and Bermudian will be there. Bermudian went there last year, and that's where Coach McCollum won his 500th career match. So that'll be good. Bermudian's got to have revenge on their mind for Northern Lebanon for knocking them out of districts last year. So that's going to be good. You also have to look out for Southwestern Spring Grove, Southwestern Red Lion.
Are those coming up?
I think those are after the new year.
Okay.
There really isn't many division matches before the calendar flips.
I think the most heated, the most anticipated wrestling match I went to last year was the Spring Grove Southwestern one. That was, it was packed more than any other sporting event I saw.
They turn out.
That gym was standing room only by 10 minutes before the match even started, so they were fired up.
Yeah, our live stream for that one too did about 400 viewers consistently throughout the match. So people over there in Adams County love their wrestling.
Yeah, they do.
They do love their wrestling. I know Burn Bigelow is obviously always a big one. DeLone brought a big crowd for their match with Bermudian last year. They tried to kind of knock Bermudian off the hill. So those are definitely some good ones. I think another one we saw anytime I saw Red Lion against Southwestern and Red Lion against Spring Grove, and those were two pretty solid ones as well.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Sorry about that. It's unbelievable the following it has here, and here there were over 400 viewers on that live stream is
that's better numbers than we get on some football and basketball stuff.
Oh, no question.
By a lot.
By a lot. But I think that's actually one of the cooler things about covering sports in this area, and I'll say this right now. I need to go to the district and state tournaments. Those things are a sight to see, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Last year, the state tournament, the first day, there was a massive snowstorm. Tom Hunt couldn't even get up to Hershey to cover it. There were still over 4,000 people for the first session in the Giants Center. And I think that was the worst attended session of them all. Most of them averaged over 5,000, with the AAA finals getting 8,000 people in the Giants Center.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw the AAA. I don't know if it was regionals or districts, but it snowed heavy that day too. I was at Susquehanna, I think, just north of Harrisburg. Got snowed in basically. When I walked in, it was sunny. I was there for 10 hours because wrestling takes all day. I walked out and you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. People didn't know where they were driving, on grass, on the curb, on the road. It was just all one layer of snow. You just drove, and it was in the mountains. So that was a rough one. But yeah, the one I don't know why. Oh, the Tom Hunt story is why I thought of that. But yeah, the districts and regions are a lot of fun to see. I think the other ones were at Milton Hershey, I think.
Yeah.
Milton Hershey. So. Wrestling playoffs are very exciting. One of the best times this season.
Yeah, I have to get up there for sure. Mm-hmm. We have Andy on. We have a couple more minutes. Hate to spring this on you, but you obviously are in our office every night. You're writing in box scores. You're taking phone calls. You're getting faxes. You're talking to the editors. You're talking to the writers. Any big takeaways from the high school football season?
Oh, man. You are putting me on the spot here a little bit.
Well, first off, Andy called the Northeastern win over Northern Lebanon. Not many people thought that because Northern Lebanon has such a good record.
And then we were like, I think they can hang round 2. And Andy's like, no.
No, not a chance.
No.
When I make my picks, I'm going to Andy next year.
Yeah, especially those teams from up in that area. When you need an out-of-area team, Andy's the guy for you.
Yeah, Northeastern obviously had a pretty good year.
Hanover.
Yeah. Hanover was a surprise for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I was the guy that was picking against Hanover from week 5 on because I wanted to be the guy who picked their loss,
Right.
And most of the time it wasn't because I really truly believed they would lose. I just wanted to be the one that picked to be like, hey, I picked this loss.
Yeah, it's just like, who picked against Hanover this weekend? He's like, I did. It's like, I did. 4 straight weeks.
It's like they're playing Fairfield. I don't care,
Classic. Yeah, they had a great season for sure. That's funny. I actually think I did pick their first loss randomly, but I finished in last place, so I don't really.
That was the Bigleyville one. They only lost 2 games all year. Both were the Bigleyville.
Right.
Yep.
What else, do we have any live streams coming up? I know we got William Penn, Red
We
Lion
have William
tonight.
Penn, Red Lion tonight, so everyone definitely should be sure to tune into that. If they're by their computers this evening and they want to catch some high school hoops, that will be
that'll be a good matchup. You got Bennett Fry, Wyatt Tyson for Red Lion going up against Montreal Morgan and Chris Johnson, obviously for William Penn. William Penn just blew out Southwestern. Red Lion coming off a heartbreaking 1-point loss to Dallastown at the buzzer.
Yeah, that'll be a good one for sure. We have that. We have West York Dover on the 15th. We have Red Lion Central on the 18th. We have West York Susquehanna Girls on the 22nd. Northeastern William Penn Boys on the 23rd.
That's really going.
So that's December for you right there. So, yeah, if you are... Whenever you're looking to catch some live high school basketball action, you can't get to the games. GameTime PA is the place to be. This is our second show of the high school sports season. Again, we are going an hour this winter. Check us out again next week, Thursday, 4 to 5 on our live stream, 6 to 7 on WOYK. Game Day with GameTime
PA. First in York, first in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350, WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.